Some of the biggest things in life center around awareness and intention. Through awareness, we find out if our intentions are positive or negative. And sometimes the negatives are positives, and sometimes the positives are negatives. And I know there's a lot of people out there that like to call that nihilism. And how important it is to keep centered in faith towards the source. And that's all very well and good. But if you're just starting out, you're just beginning, maybe you had a little bit of an ego death, maybe your foundation was shook, you're probably wondering where to go, what direction to head in. And that all centers around awareness, attention, observation, and perception. When we observe a thing, it changes. Just the act of being observed changes a thing. That's how we're little creators. That's how we make art. No matter what that art is. But it's through those things that we're really allowed to express ourselves. But maybe you're not interested in the creation part. Maybe you're just interested in the observation portion, which, kudos to you. That's a pretty big undertaking. Because it's through our awareness, once you become aware of something and you observe it changes. The dynamic of it changes. You've probably seen a million children in your life, but when you have your own child, it changes your outlook on children. Mostly. I mean, some people are not fazed by it whatsoever. But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about you. We don't run across videos like this on accident. We're meant to see them. Everything that appears to us is appearing to us in a way that reflects or mirrors who we are and where we're going on our journey. So once you start observing yourself, your patterns, the things that you do regularly, and you start discarding things that just aren't beneficial to you, your ability to perceive increases, gets bigger. Until, enlightenment, you turn into Muji or Eckhart Tolle or one of the great masters. And, and that's a pretty lofty goal too. But if you're on this path and you're trying to make sense of it all, to figure it all out, your awareness is the place to start. And then your intention plays a huge role. How you observe things. There's a story I've told in some of my other posts about Jesus and his disciples walking through the desert, and they come across a dead, rotting dog on the side of the road. And all the disciples, when they see it, they turn away in disgust. But Jesus goes closer, and he looks at it, and he goes, wow, it really had beautiful teeth. And the meaning of that, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you won't. But it's shining a light on this idea, which would be considered nihilistic, that there is no true good or bad, that there is goodness and bad and goodness. And that comes down to intention. go through life in a type of loving kindness where you don't want to hurt anybody and you're not looking to hurt anybody because you've discarded enough of your ego to realize that hurting other people does not build you up and has no value at all. And once you've come to that place, then you can go into the next step, which is I do for my own awakening. And I've said it before, you can't love others until you learn how to love yourself. All of the whoopsie daisies, all the mistakes that you've made, all the little accidents, you know, that were never really accidental. You did everything on purpose. You meant to do it. Once you accept those things and you learn to love yourself, you get to a place where you don't want to repeat that process. So your awareness plays a huge role in that. The more aware you become of the things that you do and why you do them helps in the next step of the process. I mean, you could look at the Buddha. The Buddha didn't start teaching until the Buddha knew. And that's huge. You can't teach anyone anything until you know what you're doing for you. I mean, we get so lost and confused and we try to find these people that are going to give us answers. And we don't even have a clue that the guru we were looking for is on the inside, and they were there the whole time. It's kind of like what you see in some of the non-duality groups. Like, you already are enlightened, you already are imperfect, you already are the thing that you're looking for. And there is a truth to that, but they point at that so much that they forget to tell you that there's steps that you have to take to come to those realizations. And those steps, unfortunately, are in a dualistic existence. Good, bad, yes, no, yin, yang. So once you start looking at the things, the little traumas that you've endured, you not being loved enough as a child, your spouse didn't love you correctly, you didn't love yourself correctly, you come down to the point where nobody loves anybody correctly. Because none of us really know how to do that. It's one of those easier said than done things. Because kindness sometimes can be walking away. Kindness can sometimes be telling someone that what they're doing is hurtful. Kindness can be giving it all away or taking it all back. It really comes down to how your heart is screaming. Because it's an individual journey. We're all looking at these things individually from our own perspectives. You know, we've all lived very individual lives that are very similar in a lot of ways. And you can get caught up in it so deeply that you just keep doing the loop, the circular loop. Repeating the process over and over again and hoping to find a way out and never really finding it. And for me, on my journey, I have found that meditation is a huge factor in that. And there are millions of different ways to meditate. Ramana Maharishi talked about self-reflection. And I'm a huge proponent of self-reflection. using your imagination, going back to parts of your life where you were hurt or felt hurt, and giving yourself the love that you needed at the time. It's nobody's fault, very specifically, because nobody knows what they're doing. And that's not a cop-out. That's not trying to say that, we're all innocent and free. What it means is that you can't hold on to that pain because it's breaking you. It's hurting you. It's keeping you stuck in this really terrible place that you're trying desperately to get out of, but you're not going to be able to get out of it until you release that shit. I mean, we want to blame the government. We want to blame the religious institutions. We want to blame other countries, races. We want to blame the opposing sex. We want to blame the opposing genders. We want to blame everything except the thing that deserves the blame, which is right here. How you are looking at it, how you're observing it. I don't pay attention to certain things because I don't need to anymore. They don't touch me at all anymore. I don't have a feeling based in that thing anymore. And it's not that I'm dead to the issue. It's that the issue is dead to me. There's a story that I really like about Mother Teresa, whether you like her or not. They asked her to march in this anti-war rally. And she said no. And they're like, well, why not? Aren't you against war? And she goes, no, I'm not against war. I'm for peace. So if you have a pro-peace rally, I'll march. You have to choose your words, because your words come from ideas, and those ideas come from observations, and those observations come from awarenesses. And if you're aware of a thing, you make that thing be. I've been asked by some subscribers to talk more about manifestation, and the reason I don't really want to is because I'm not interested in the manifestation as much as I am in the mind that manifests. The consciousness that realizes it can manifest. That's interesting to me. And apparently it was interesting to Mother Teresa too, because she chose her words very, very carefully. I had a friend that said, I hate when these people do this. And I was like, hey, choose your words a little lighter. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, it seems like just an off-the-cuff statement. But hate is a huge word. We're casting spells with our words all the time. That's why it's called spelling. We're conjuring magical things with our tongues all the time. So you have to be careful. What you mean and what you say need to line up. So maybe you don't hate when people do that thing. Maybe you would rather people talked about things that were more pertinent to the situation. Things like love and care. Things like compassion, empathy. Maybe those are the things that you want to talk about more, but instead you wind up accidentally talking about its opposite. So you don't have to get into the anti-war movement. Get into the pro-peace movement. And with that, as always, much love.